In a scheme that you couldn't even make up, it appears that Disney and ESPN have been conspiring against the Emmys in order to provide fake Emmys to their on-air talent. And now it looks like the Emmys wants them to return their prizes. Let's talk about that on That Park Place. Good morning. Forgive me for the laughing during the intro there. I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place. And with me, as always, is my aficionado of culture, Mr. Vash Sky. Vash, how are you doing, sir?
Doing pretty good. Maybe a little bit better than the people who had to be forced to return their Emmys upon ESPN's and ultimately NATAS' request. But we'll get into that in just a second.
I feel so. First of all, sympathy to the talent that was hoodwinked by ESPN and Disney on this particular instance. That is no fair. And any embarrassment or frustration that you have on this issue, please don't direct it at us. Direct it to your employers or maybe former employers, as ESPN has had a bit of a rotation these days. ESPN operated a 13-year Emmy scheme using fake names to get awards for top talent. This one out of the New York Post by Matt Ehalt. I'm not sure. Vash, do you want to venture a guess?
We can just replace his name in the name tag later on there. It'll be fine.
We got the spice today. The award for most Craven statue stealing goes to ESPN. The network made up fake names for Emmy Awards in order to obtain statuettes for on-air talent who were ineligible to receive awards, only for the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, which oversees the Emmys, to foil the scheme, according to The Athletic. ESPN had operated the scheme since 2010 by submitting the names of fake individuals with the same initials as their stars under the guise of associate producers, re-engraving the statuettes and then delivering them to their on-air personalities, per the report. This scheme helped secure hardware for the on-air talent behind the success of College Game Day. The hosts were not eligible to be honored for a Best Show award until 2023 because there are separate categories for individual awards. Some members of our team were clearly wrong in submitting certain names that may go back to 1997. Wow.
Right.
That's an amazing admission in Emmy categories that were not eligible for recognition or statuettes. Oh, wow, Vash. What were you going to say?
Well, a lot of people are like, well, this goes back 13 years or so, or maybe 14 years. But ESPN themselves are admitting that this goes back to supposedly 1997, and we can assume maybe even further if the investigation goes back far. And there's actually multiple investigations going on about this. Not only did ESPN do their internal investigation when they were when this information was brought forward and been like, hey, what's going on here? But the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences is conducting their own investigation, and The Athletic, interestingly enough, who may have broke this story, if I'm not mistaken, is also doing their kind of investigative journalism on this whole thing. So this is a huge scandal here, folks. I mean, this is not good. And honestly, this has only really been associated with one production, this College Game Day right here, which has been a stalwart for decades now. But if this is going on with this kind of complexity, they weren't just getting the Emmys and forwarding them to talent. They would get the Emmys, replace the nameplates with the real names of who they felt won, and then ship them out. So this was kind of a complex thing here.
Yeah, the thing that I wonder here is you can buy a fake Emmy. You can just literally buy something that is almost the same as an Emmy and then put on whatever nameplate you want. By the way, I got an Emmy for all of my writing that I did on Bluey. Yes. I cannot understand why they would go about this in particular. I don't understand if the talent themselves thought they were getting an Emmy and they just thought, well, they're never going to go look it up, so nobody tell them. I wonder if their assistants were told, if they start to Google this stuff, just take their phone away. Who is affected by this, Vash?
Well, multiple people. So The Athletic actually has a good breakdown right here of the on-air talent that supposedly received the awards, but obviously who won them went under different pseudonyms. So for Kirk Herbstreit, for example, you have Kirk Henry, Lee Corso, Lee Clark, Desmond Howard, Dirk Howard. You see, same initials, kind of similar, right? Tom Rinaldi, Tim Richard, Sam Ponder, Stephen Ponder, Gene. I'm going to butcher that last name, but we'll go ahead and call him Gene Wilson for now. Chris Fowler, Chris Fulton, and Shelley Smith, Shelley Saunders right here. And due to Athletics reporting, they actually investigated even further than some of the ones that they could confirm, and they found that Eric Andrews might be a pseudonym for Aaron Andrews. Interesting. That's very progressive, by the way. That was back in 2012 right there. And I didn't know, there was a transition process there, but hey, there you go. Now, Wendy Nixon for Wendy Nixon, Jen Brown Smith for Jen Brown. So this is going back a long ways with talent that has been recognized highly in the industry. For example, Aaron Andrews, when negotiating to be a reporter for Fox, did the conversation of how many Emmys she would have won come up and been part of that deal? I think absolutely. So this has a lot of ramifications for not just College Game Day or anybody associated with ESPN, but this on-air talent have used the fact that they have won multiple Emmys and resumes and have moved up the chain that way. I'm sure people behind the scenes have been able to utilize this as sort of cachet for themselves. This is a big deal right here.
Oh yes, if you look at the fact that even being nominated for an Academy Award comes with prestige and the ability to negotiate as far as your crediting on a movie, I can't even imagine what all of these people who thought that they had Emmys or were trying to deceive people into thinking they had Emmys. I tend to go with the former as opposed to the latter. Also, who checks? This is a question that I've seen come up many times. Another thing I'd like to add here is I'm very relieved that this is a diverse group of people that seems to span races and sexes here, because if it was one color, it would reflect very poorly on the Walt Disney Company for reasons we've gone into before. Or if it was all older white guys, then I think the story would be covered in a much different way.
Right. So apparently you talked about who checks, and interestingly, apparently nobody did for a while there, and that gets a little bit confusing. But in 2022, when they were about to change the rules in order to recognize these people individually in a way that ESPN felt that they were entitled to before then, in 2022, the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences actually came up to ESPN with their submissions that they had just submitted and said, we need verification that these people actually exist. We can't find them in your records of employment right here. And that's when the whole thing blew up really in their faces. And they were like, this is part of a scheme that we've been running for quite some time.
Oh, my.
And it's very widespread. You see right here, Linda Cohn, who has been with ESPN for years. She posts on Instagram, "Hey, my Fab Four, isn't that great? I got 4 Emmys," and it's like, but your eligibility only entitled you to one of those wins. So, of course, when seeking comment from her, she declined. But
yeah, I would too. Well, no, at this point, I would be laughing. Well, see, this is the problem. When you identify yourself by the awards you're given, and I'm not saying that anyone is wrong for accepting the accolades that they have received. This is so painful to think about. You have to. If anyone is having to return an Emmy, you need to find the place within yourself that is able to laugh at this as soon as possible, so that you can enjoy. I'm not going to say the fun, so that you can get past this.
Yeah.
Talk to your therapist if you need some assistance in that, because as I'm going to bring in the last phase of our story,
please.
This from The Hill, ESPN returns 37 Emmys won using fake names. 37 Emmys. I wonder how many of those are names in common, or if this is 37 different pieces of on-air talent. I wonder if there are people who actually have legitimate Emmys now that are calling their agents and calling the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences to say, "Hey, did I actually win this?"
I would assume so, and the reason why Jonas is suggesting that they didn't know is because, well, Shelley Smith, who was interviewed by The Athletic, said that she literally didn't know this was even a thing. A lot of times, the Emmys ceremony would take place. A few weeks later, she would get an Emmy in the mail, and it's like, oh, I didn't even know I won, or whatever. A lot of people necessarily didn't know. I would have to assume some people did, but getting to the bottom of that is I don't know necessarily how you do that. But for the people who genuinely didn't know, this has got to be earth shattering, and it's a really kind of a sad thing that we are seeing take place here. But and people have gone into like, wait, why did they do this? And from the on-air talent standpoint, it was like, well, the executives were obsessed with Emmy nominations and so forth, and they were obsessed with that kind of the cachet that it brought with them. So that's why they did it, because I can be attached to an Emmy award-winning show and be like, hey, look, Linda Kahn, you see, she won 4 Emmys. Well, I hired her, kind of thing, right? And then from the executive standpoint, it was like, well, we were trying to placate on-air talent and give them the awards to stroke their egos. I have, it's a very complicated kind of thing right here, and I don't know. I don't know what's true, what's not, but go ahead, Jonas.
Here's the thing that I think will be a bigger fallout. A bunch of people on College Game Day, which I don't usually watch College Game Day, the punditry before and after an event that you actually want to watch is questionable to me. I say this as a person who does coverage of the Walt Disney Company live streams. I wonder how many Emmys are up for grabs right now in this moment, because there has to be someone within the NATAS right now that is saying, okay, how many of the Emmys that we've given out are fake in this moment? So do they have to do the cost benefit analysis here? They have to do the PR calculus to say, okay, do we want to go through our entire history here and check for every single associate producer or whatever that happens to be eligible for an Emmy or got added to the list? How many fake? I wonder who the most awarded fake name on the Emmy registry is right now, because I don't think that if this happens from ESPN, and again, it's like almost 40 Emmys that are being returned here, I wonder how many other productions there are fake awards for there. That are fake awards out there right now. Thinking about the BAFTAs, I'm thinking about the Oscars. I wonder who's gotten a Golden Globe that doesn't really exist.
Yeah, how widespread is this? Is there potential lawsuits from people who maybe should have won those Emmys who didn't? I mean, this gets really complicated really fast. The fallout is already happening, though, as The Athletic points out. While it is not known who orchestrated the scheme, Craig Lazarus, vice president and executive producer of original content and features, Lee Fitting, a senior vice president of production who oversaw College Game Day and other properties, were among the ESPN employees that the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences ruled ineligible from future participation. They include also Drew Gallagher, and all of College Game Day, I believe, is ineligible to win for an entire year. So, they're the axe is already coming down. A lot of people say, well, is that necessarily commensurate with how long this scheme has been going on, with the 37 Emmys so far, by the way, that have been returned? That's up for debate for sure.
And I'm going ahead and pointing this out as an internal auditor. If I were a person hoping to fake some Emmy awards, first of all, you have the option, again, of just buying a statue and engraving it yourself. The other option is to take someone who is not associated with the production and wouldn't have been eligible for it and pretending like they were eligible, and then paying them off to give that Emmy to on-air talent. So NATAS or award shows, be on the lookout for how to defeat that one. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in here to That Park Place. Sports are not our usual subject here, but of course, this is Disney and ESPN, so we naturally consider that in our wheelhouse. Like this video if you like this video. Of course, if you know anyone who might be interested in this kind of thing, then consider sharing it out. And of course, if you wouldn't mind, just contemplate subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.